These guys survived the David Kahn era of Timberwolves basketball and live to tell about it. It's Flagrant Howls.
Hello, Kyle. How are you on this Monday, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well as well. I would like, with your permission, to start this episode of Flagrant Howls with a reading from one Stephen Douglas Kerr.
I thought you were going to want to maybe start with the Pledge of Allegiance, but this will also work.
Okay. This might be the new Pledge of Allegiance, actually. It's the Pledge of Allegiance. It's Steve Kerr's allegiance to the rising star in the National Basketball Association. This is from The Athletic. If there is a single American player who has metamorphosized since training camp began on August 3rd in Las Vegas, it's Anthony Edwards, the Minnesota Timberwolves All-Star, who was already a favorite to use his Team USA experience as a springboard to an even bigger stardom. Well, he has jumped. Quote from Steve Kerr. Edwards is unquestionably the guy. I mean, he knows it, but now the team knows it, and I think the fans see it. But we see it in practice every day. He genuinely believes he's the best player in the gym every single night. He's such a dynamic young player, but I think he's taking a leap. Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr is salivating over Anthony Edwards, Team USA. They were down double digits to Germany yesterday. Anthony Edwards comes in and grabs that game by the scruff and says, not on my watch.
We've missed a lot on this pod, and we love to admit when we're wrong. The Wolves did not hit 50 wins last year. But one of the things I think I'm most proud of is that we've kind of been calling this ever since it was announced earlier this summer that everything was building for this to be the moment in this now 22-year-old kid's life where he is on the biggest stage that you can really be on. I mean, the NBA finals are obviously pretty massive too, but
Olympics.
Yeah. Olympics too, like the biggest stage you can be on right now, I should say, in his career. You know, there was no March Madness or any of that stuff for him in college. And not only is he holding his own, like treading water, he is Michael Phelpsing his way through the basketball pool of just and so yesterday, I mean, everyone was excited, and you're seeing everyone, right? Like now you're starting to see Kevin Garnett, you're seeing Jason Tatum, you're seeing all these players. It kind of reminded me from a local angle. I think it was the Olympics, but a couple of years ago, the pride of Minnesota, but the pride of the University of North Dakota, TJ Oshie, when he was like crushing it on the Olympic stage, and like all these people were like, oh my God, that guy's like Captain America for our hockey team. That's what people are starting to realize with Ant. It's not just that, and again, exhibition game, Germany, some really good players, by the way, for Germany, the Wagner brothers, Dennis Schroeder, Daniel Tice. It's not the pump fake Michael Jordan baseline turnaround jump shot. It's not the 3 in transition. It's watching other guys who are max player, franchise players for their team be in a moment where it's like, oh, we're stuck. We need something, and defer to the kid. Yeah. Defer to the 22-year-old. Like to watch Paolo Banchero, to watch Tyrese Halliburton, to watch Jaren Jackson Jr. be like, hey, we need you to save us. That's bigger than any. I mean, it doesn't matter if they beat Germany yesterday. It's an exhibition game, but that moment is him just solidifying himself as probably a top 10, 15 player in the league moving forward. I mean, he's having his Dwayne Wade moment. He's having his Kevin Durant moment. And that was really cool to watch those other guys that have also been first overall picks or have max money. Like, we look up to this kid was insane to watch in real time.
And that, to me, that's the dynamic that's so fascinating. And Steve Kerr confirmed it, that you put, and now this isn't the best players in the league. I mean, the Olympics is usually, you know, I guess like if you're LeBron, you've already won your gold medal, whatever. But so take a few of the best players in the league off the board. But the Olympics is the actual best players. Mm-hmm. This is like the best emerging players, I would say. It's not all of them, but it's a good solid group of the best emerging American players. And the fact that Steve Kerr is coming out and saying, Steve Kerr, who, by the way, Stephen Douglas didn't even have Ant in his starting lineup a couple weeks ago. He wised up pretty quickly. But for him to say he's unquestionably the guy, and the team knows it, the fans know it, we see it in practice, that he is confirming Ant is the alpha of this group of young, rising American superstar basketball players. We sit here on this show, and we sit here over the years, and we sort of debate, ever since Kevin Garnett was traded to Boston almost 2 decades ago, who's the alpha of the Timberwolves, right? Who's the face of the Timberwolves, going to carry the Timberwolves forward? It's one thing to be the man of the Timberwolves. There's been a lot of guys who have held that standing, right? Kevin Love was the face of the Timberwolves. He was the alpha of the Timberwolves. Al Jefferson, maybe Ricky Rubio at one point. Andrew Wiggins was the alpha of the Timberwolves, right? Karl Anthony Towns at times has been the face and the alpha of the Timberwolves. That's a pretty, respectfully, low bar to clear historically the last 20 years. But it's a whole nother thing when guys like Steve Kerr are crowning you alpha of a group of NBA stars, right? And that, to me, like, Kevin Garnett was both for years. He was the alpha of the Timberwolves, unquestioned, and he was an alpha of the league, unquestioned. They only made one meaningful run, which is what stings so much about the KG era. But we're getting to the point here where, and by the way, speaking of KG, he's been tweeting up a storm about Anthony Edwards over the last few weeks. Again, last night, he sees some things in Anthony Edwards that I think he sees when he looks in the mirror. But we're going from Edwards being maybe the face of the Timberwolves, and that's great, to maybe being one of the alphas of the actual NBA at some point here soon.
And again, he had 34 points.
Yeah.
I think the record for a USA men's basketball, something, maybe World Cup was like Durant had 38. So he was close again.
Wow.
They did a media thing with him where he ranked his top 5 players of all time. I think he had Durant in there. He idolizes Kevin Durant. That's kind of his, for most guys, it's LeBron or MJ. Like, that's kind of his guy.
Yeah.
But as I've said before, I was in Vegas for Summer League. You get to just network with a ton of people. And I met someone who was with Team USA traveling all around the world right now. So we were swapping messages over the weekend, and he just confirmed, just kind of like, I was just like, give me some anecdotal thing behind the scenes. And he's like, the stuff you see on the court is what you would see off the court. Like, there was that viral moment where he went up for that dunk in like a scrimmage or whatever on Jaren Jackson Jr. and was like, I thought you're defensive player of the year. Like, you got to jump. Some people might take that out of context, but according to this person, I was like, they kind of love that. Like, they love Ant's personality. And some of these guys,
he does it with a smile, not a scowl.
And then again, if you want to just be totally reckless and just draw lines, like Jaren Jackson Jr., I think had 5 blocks in like the first quarter yesterday against Germany. So was that because Ant kind of got under his skin and motivated him? But it sounds like on the bus, at dinners and stuff, like this is their first real experience. They've played against Anthony Edwards before, but they've never been able to just like hang out in the hotel room, hang out on the bus. And that stuff to me is also really big because you're starting to build these relationships. I've been like, Bobby Portis has been like an uncle to him. Like, they're super tight hanging out. So having that respect of the older generation, him and Tyrese Halliburton are super cool. Like, again, 2026 starting point guard for the Timberwolves, Tyrese Halliburton. This is where those relationships start to build.
It is.
And I just think it's incredible. Also, too, and you said the Kevin Garnett thing, and I kind of wanted to get quickly maybe into a little schedule rant before we end this pod today, too. But
we should pick the schedule today.
We should take a moment here. And if you thought it was an exhibition game and you're like, do it in the playoffs, whatever, I get that. This goes back to what I said at the top about us being right. We might be in something that we've never experienced before. We might be in like a story, right? Where it's like, this is just all building towards, Ant leading the Timberwolves eventually down the road to like an NBA Finals. That sounds about as real as like the city of Tolosa, but it's like, I don't know, man.
Where are we at on that, by the way? Mark
I don't know,
Lowry's
but if you can hear in my microphone, I think they're building it outside my window right now because the largest construction project of all time is happening. But so
I can't hear it, but I trust
good.
It's epic.
It's terrible to look at. So it's a reminder of if you've stuck around. I've always said that Wolves fans are the greatest because they've gone through, they've invested more and received less than any other fan base. If you've stuck around this long, just don't worry about the future because, as Ant starts to be on a national stage and national viewing and big articles and all these people are talking about him, you're also seeing the downside of some of that. Photoshopped jerseys, right? Ant, welcome to LA in 2025. Like we have to, as Wolves Twitter and as a fan base and a community, we need to just let our differences go, embrace each other, and get around this kid, because we now need to start protecting him, because the piranhas are going to start to come out when other people realize how awesome he is, how fun he is, how exciting he is.
Yeah.
And that's why I spin it all back to this new ownership thing, which from all indications is probably going to wrap up this year, not early next year. As soon as that's done, they need to get Kevin Garnett back in the building in some capacity. I think Alex Rodriguez has actually done a lot behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. You need to have important, influential people in that kid's mind, reminding him that Minnesota is super cool and that you can do it here and we're going to build it for you. Because with, again, the Batman thing I say all the time, like with great, power comes great expectations or whatever. You're starting to see the kid's power globally. And now you're going to start to see those people start, as soon as the Wolves lose 4 games in a row this next season, the piranhas will be out. They'll be saying, oh, he could do it in Boston. He could do it in LA. And that just comes with the viewing and the eyeballs and all the stuff that's going well for him. So
yes,
really cool Sunday, but there's also a dark side to this.
No, but you've hit on a great theme here. And I didn't wake up this morning intending to bash Glenn Taylor for the 7,000th time. But, some of it in the NBA is because contracts are so short and players have so much power. Can you create a cool place to be? Really, that's kind of what it is. It's easier if your city is just a cool place to be, like New York, Miami, Los Angeles, right? Or if your organization has 50 to 60 years of heritage, or in the Heat's case, 20 to 25 years of great heritage. If you're not one of those pillar franchises, can you create that vibe? Glenn Taylor has been awful at that.
Correct.
Even when he had that player in Kevin Garnett, he couldn't figure out who to hire to beef up the front office. He couldn't figure out how to not stick his foot in his mouth and piss off Kevin Garnett. And KG's been cantankerous. There's a lot of reasons why that relationship has fallen by the wayside. But Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez have a much better chance to make this organization a cool place to be, along with Anthony Edwards, than Glenn Taylor has for the last 20 years. So that's a really important thing. It's just like, make it hard to leave a great organization. That's like I can say it. It's easy to say, but you have to build it. You have to put the infrastructure in, bring the people in, and it feels like they're getting closer to that. Even though they haven't really done anything meaningful in the postseason yet, they're getting closer to that now than they've been since Kevin Garnett left.
Yep. And the Gobert trade is what it is. I still think they got a talented player. They just overpaid. And at some point, we just need to really let that one go and move forward with the roster they have. So I think Tim Connolly is trying to build that for Ant on the court, but off the court. And the Wolves do. I mean, we've been critical at times, but the Wolves have some really good, smart business people behind the scenes. And now with new ownership, that'll kind of be emphasized. But there's still things that kind of trigger me, and I don't know who's responsible for it. So I'm just spewing thoughts on my brain. But I was flying through Minneapolis Airport the other weekend for that jersey reveal. There's Anthony Edwards is not mentioned anywhere in that airport. There's that one store like in the mall row that sells like Minnesota stuff. There was more spam merchandise, literally like the meat, than Wolf stuff. You got to get that fixed. You have one of the 5-10 biggest airports in the name a lake after Ant. Like if they win a gold medal, just find a lake that's not that popular and just rename it Lake Edwards or something. Do these little things, because I do know that when they put his face on that hotel in Vegas to announce his contract signing, he loved that. So you have to continue. Again, at the end of the day, it's probably going to come down to winning and losing. But even guys that win to a certain level get poached for bigger markets and bigger cities and bigger teams because the other stuff behind the scenes isn't working. You got to have Ant's face plastered all over the airport. You got to have jerseys for sale in the airport. So when people are coming through, they're like, I just watched this kid play against Germany the other day. I want to get a t-shirt, and I'm going to live in North Carolina, and just grow his brand, because you are now gifted something you haven't had since Kevin Garnett. And there's a 1% chance that it could even be better than Kevin Garnett. Yeah. You cannot blow it by not investing every single resource you have into growing him on and off the court.
So I don't think Glenn Taylor thinks about that stuff at all.
Exactly.
Alex Rodriguez does. Mm-hmm. Alex Rodriguez is one of the most vain human beings on planet Earth. Of course he thinks about brand and marketing and how you're. And so if there's a stake for him, as he is now going to be one of the owners of a multi-billion-dollar franchise in terms of the valuation, hopefully they're going to be thinking, and Mark Laurie too, with just like how to market a company, a startup, whatever it is. It's people might scoff like, okay, who cares if Anthony Edwards' jersey is at the airport, dude? Like that stuff. If you're trying to create a really, really hard situation to leave for a player, players leave because it's not really about money. Because once you reach a certain point in the NBA, you're a supermax player. You're going to make the same amount of money anywhere. It's about winning and losing. It's about respect, right? So, and some of it's nebulous, like they don't respect me. So you have to be careful about saying or doing things that are just, but if you go out of your way to respect the guy and to put him on a pedestal, you can avoid some of those weird conflicts that happen sometimes in organizations. Put a great team around him, a coach that he likes and gets along with, and make sure that he is the face of Minnesota. And we won't have to worry about any of this BS for the next 5 or 10 years.
And it's probably not going to be Ant that realizes his jersey is not for sale in the airport. That's just one small example.
I hear what you're saying.
But it is his friends or it's his, someone close to him that's like, man, I was at that Starbucks in Mall Row or whatever, and I noticed they don't have
Justin Jefferson's all over the place.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson. They're selling. There's more merchandise for Spam, which apparently is from Minnesota. I just learned that.
I think that's true.
Then there is of what I would deem, with all due respect to Justin Jefferson, who is awesome, probably the most exciting athlete in Minnesota, Anthony Edwards. Mm-hmm. And the fact that, again, you got to find different ways. Again, like if they win the gold medal for the World Cup, which again, I know is not the Olympics, but would be a pretty big moment, biggest moment for this kid's career. Rename Mall of America for a day to just Mall of Ant-America or something. Like do little things that are creative that show like this is your city, a city that still has the most passionate, awesome fans in the world, but is like looking for someone to cling to. That's how you grow this thing. Is like you do these creative ways, put his face on a hotel, fly his name through the air on a plane. Like
that stuff was they did some of that stuff, right?
And it was well received on his end as well. So again, those are the little things. I know we just completely went off topic. He was awesome yesterday. He hit every big shot. His teammates love him. And August, September is a tough time for a basketball fan. For men's basketball, the WNBA is still going. The Lynx are playing really well, but from an NBA standpoint, there's not a lot to look at. And with this World Cup coming up, it's going to be really, really exciting because there's some fun teams in it. Canada's fun. France is going to be fun. But the United States showed why they are the number one favorite to win it. And it's not because of the roster, the depth, or the coaching staff. It's because of a kid who turned 22 a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Although I will say the coaching staff,
pretty
Eric Spoelstra and Steve Kerr, I'll give them a little pie chart of praise. They get a little 10%.
Ty Lue's like their fourth assistant. Not bad.
By the way, we're going to do our part. If someone can name a lake after Anthony Edwards, then we here at Score North and on Flagrant Howls will go to Power Lodge. We'll go to Miller Marine. We'll get one of these badass Bennington pontoons. We will bring a pontoon on Lake Edwards, Lake Ant-Man, whatever you want to name it. Make it happen, and we will make sure that we go to our friends at Power Lodge, who've been in business now for 25 years. They're celebrating 25 years in business, unveiling 25 days of deals this month on the latest off-road and on-road vehicles, boats, and supplies. To find out more, go to powerlodge.com, millermarine.com as well, but Power Lodge, 25 years in business, Brainerd, Ramsey, Anemia, Sauk Rapids, and check them out, and we appreciate them helping us here grow our business at Score North. So I just, before we get to the Immaculate Grid, and we can talk schedule for a second too, if I was a lesser man, I would take this opportunity and this platform to point out, while Anthony Edwards was doing all these amazing things, rising up to the moment, elevating above all these other talented young players to bring his country back from down big in the fourth quarter, hitting big shot after big shot, while he was rising up to the moment. If I was a lesser man, I would leverage that up against what happened in the Dominican Republic Spain game, in which Karl Anthony Towns got unnecessarily ejected. It was a soft ejection, but like we're getting ejected from basically like a preseason World Cup game because we can't control our emotions in the way we talk to officials. But I'm not going to bring it up, Kyle. I'm not going to bring it up because I know that we got our eyes set moving forward here for the 2023-24 Timberwolves. Enough looking at the negativity in the past here, okay? So I am not going to mention it.
I noticed that maybe it's the timing of the podcast schedule. You didn't want to bring up his performance against Canada when he shot threes from all over the state of Minnesota.
He was shooting from like the logo.
he looks, all jokes aside, he looks pretty good. The technicals thing, it was weird. I watched a lot of FIBA over the weekend because Dane Moore was just blasting the timeline with all these videos. So it was like, okay, I got to watch this stuff. And they're just a quick whistle all of a sudden. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the United States gets caught up in that a little bit. I don't know if it's an emphasis by FIBA officials, but they were like Germany played on Saturday as well. And like half their guys got tossed in the third quarter. So tough whistle. But you don't want to see a guy that has foul trouble history start getting tossed in exhibition international games. That's how wars, I think, happen. But he has shown a green light from three, which is refreshing because that's kind of been our thing. Is like, if you're the best shooting big in the world, why are you not taking 8 to 10 threes a game? So it'll be interesting. It'll be really fun. I'm actually, again, Ant, we didn't even say this yet. Ant like rolled his ankle yesterday, which at that point I went full Judd mode and I was just like, all right, just cancel NATO, like blow it all up. But he was okay. He came back. It is cool to watch. Like, Kyle Anderson has shown some cool stuff playing for China. Obviously,
the goggles. He's got to keep the rec specs this season.
Yeah, that's another thing we'll have to talk about at like media day. That eye thing sounded like it was way worse than just getting hit in the face. He might be just wearing goggles the rest of his career. But even like Canada, Nikhil's hitting like step back threes. Luka Garza is awesome for Bosnia. So the World Cup starts, I believe, this Friday. Dane Moore and I are going to be doing kind of a preview later this week. So this is a really cool opportunity to watch. I mean, the Wolves have the second most international players in FIBA right now behind OKC with 5, I believe. So cool time these next couple of weeks to watch really high leverage basketball and get a glimpse of what this team could look like next season.
Hey, what did you just early impressions of the schedule that came out? So they're I'll just go through their first few games here. They get at Toronto on Wednesday, October 25th, and then home against Miami 3 days later. Atlanta on the road. Then you get 4 home games against Denver, Utah, Boston, New Orleans, and then a 5-game road trip. San Antonio back-to-back against Golden State with a day off. Phoenix and New Orleans. Not a lot of gimmies. It's funny, last year we were looking at, okay, the first 10 to 12 games, you can make some hay and start 10-2, and then they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. And who knows what some of these teams, hell, Miami could swing a trade between now and the start of the season that might change their roster. So, but there's not a whole lot of quote unquote easy games in the first month or two of this schedule. Yeah.
Actually, Jack Borman, who runs Canis Hoopus, actually does go look at his timeline. He did some actual analysis of the schedule and broke it down into 10 game segments. It's actually pretty cool. It shows you kind of like this dip. It does start hard. I think for as hard as their schedule starts, there's a nice little comfort zone in the middle. And then towards the end of the year, I think they finish with 10 of their last 14 games at home, which I think is pretty nice. They have a fantastic doubleheader against the Blazers out here, sandwiched right around Valentine's Day and then the All-Star break. So we're just going to get everyone flying out to Portland. But I mean, the biggest take, I can't look at the games and be like, wow, so they play the Bulls on the 13th of December. Like, who? I don't know, man. Am I alive then? The big one was the nationally televised games. And I think that's something I just wanted to toss back and forth here for a quick minute, is that 10, I believe, technically nationally televised games, but only 5 of those are on TNT or ESPN. The other 5 are on NBA TV.
None on TNT or ESPN until January 18th, by the way.
Yeah.
Not counting the nationally televised in-season playoff games that they'll probably be winning in Las Vegas. Those will be nationally televised, but not scheduled.
I've seen a lot of people upset about that. Even when Ant was balling yesterday for Team USA, it's like, wow, you don't want to put him on. Someone even tweeted at KG, don't you think he should be on national TV more? And then KG was like, he is TV, which is like, okay, that's a cool way to word it. But anyone who's followed me for the last 7 years covering this team, I have grown up, and I mean, I'm just fueled by caffeine and being petty. So I understand this. Why aren't you respecting the team more? Why aren't you showing us more love? Why don't they have 20 nationally televised games? And I've kind of pivoted, and I think we should take a moment again and just kind of move forward, clear the air. The more nationally, I don't really know if I want to watch this team on national TV. To me, it's almost like if you had an awesome little restaurant in your neighborhood. I don't want Guy Fieri to show up and do diners, drive-ins, and dives, because then the lines are going to get longer and it's going to be more expensive, and then they're going to maybe poach the top chef. Just leave our little restaurant alone. I don't need to hear Doc Rivers talk about him. I'd rather listen to Michael Grady do it, right? Like,
how are we going to listen to 2.5 hours of Doc Rivers on ESPN? Can his voice hold up? Are we sure?
Is the Wi-Fi connection at the golf course going to work? Because that's all that guy does. So I used to be, when the product was bad and the roster was meh, and just, like, hey, show some respect. Like, we pay taxes too. But now it's like, this is really good. And I think more national eyeballs aren't going to necessarily equate to like more respect. It just might be more criticism. So let them go call the Lakers games for like a 40-42 Lakers team. The more times that, Doc Rivers is calling the games again, it's less Jim Pete, it's less Michael Grady, it's less Alan Horton. So just let us have our own thing. We'll be fine. And then you'll have no choice but to nationally televise all the playoff games when possibly this 22-year-old kid is just leading them through. So I get the being upset. I get the lack of respect, but you go focus on your, terrible chain restaurants like the Lakers and the Knicks. We'll worry about our little hole in the wall, awesome Michelin star restaurant in our neighborhood.
I would say two things. Okay. I think I'm in lockstep with you for the most part here. There's going to be more. If the Wolves are relevant, they will be on TNT and ESPN more than 5 times. Those games they flex those games so often once you get past the first of the year. So if the Wolves are good, if they're one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the West and Anthony Edwards is as good as advertised, they're going to want that team and that player on Thursday night on TNT. They're going to want Chuck and Shaq and Ernie and Kenny talking about him. So the Wolves will earn more nationally televised games if they deserve it. Secondly, the Wolves have earned nothing the past 20 years.
Correct.
Nothing. Correct. They've done literally nothing. They've won no playoff series. They've won nothing meaningful. They've been a laughingstock for 20 years, more than they've been, a team that you cheers to. So I'm fine with this. I am fine saying Timberwolves, go prove it. You underachieved a little bit last year. Things were weird. Just go play in obscurity for the first 2 months of the season. And then if you're third in the Western Conference and Anthony Edwards is averaging 28 points a game, all right, guess what? TNT is going to flex out the Kings game because they're underachieving, and or LeBron's going to be hurt, and they're going to flex a Lakers game out or something. Like they'll find a way if the Wolves earn it. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, and you also learn doing this or just being older in life, we all have jobs, that the big organizations you look up to might not actually be that smart or that well run. Mm-hmm. It's Monday, August 21st. Go Google NBA social media. There was a fun little Reddit post today about someone who was getting overworked there and the lame benefits package they had. And all I'm saying is that maybe the NBA doesn't even know. Maybe the NBA is just like whoever's in charge of putting Ant's jersey in the Mall of America. Like maybe they're just clueless. So just use it as another chip on your shoulder, right? Like this team was crowned, in my opinion, last year, partly by us, after they make the Gobert trade, and they just couldn't really live up to expectations. So you're going to, again, for another year, have one of the lowest NBA or nationally televised games, not a lot of respect. Then just do your work in silence, and when it actually matters, again, who cares if you're on national TV in November? If you're good and this Gobert thing works and Carl's not just going to be used in a salary dump, you're going to be on national TV in April and maybe May, and that's all that matters anyway. So I understand the pettiness, I understand the frustration, but again, friends of the show, Jim and Michael, like that's all I want to listen to anyway. I don't want to listen to people that don't watch the team on a night in and night out basis try to talk about them for 2 hours, because sure as hell Doc Rivers is not actually watching this team any other night than he has to.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. So we'll see. They'll earn it or they won't, and then we can reassess sometime in like January or February. Hey, we did the Immaculate Grid Challenge, and it was kind of a hit with the audience last week. So I think we'll keep incorporating this here. If you're down, are you up for the challenge?
I pulled one right out of my rear last week, so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it again. And someone texted me like this, it's gotten harder. So, but yeah, let's. Cavs, Lakers, Hornets, Mavs, Bucks, 20. Okay.
So here's what we're looking for. I'm gonna put 6 minutes on the clock here just to give us. Otherwise, you got a day job. I got to catch a flight to a podcast conference. We'll be here for 6 hours if you let us. So I'll put 6 minutes on the clock. For the YouTube audience, you can kind of see the grid here. We're looking to go 9 for 9. To be immaculate, you have to go 9 for 9. There's 9 boxes. You have to fill them all with correct guesses. There's also a rarity score factor here too. So the more obscure player you can put in a box, the lower your rarity score, we're probably just looking to finish 9 for 9 first off, but we're looking for a Cleveland Cavalier who was once also a Hornet, a Cav who was once a Maverick, and a Cav who was once a Milwaukee Buck. We're looking for a Laker who was once a Hornet, a Laker who was once a Maverick, and a Laker who was once a Buck. And then we're looking for a Hornet who averaged a 20-point season, a Maverick who averaged 20 points in a season, and a Buck who averaged 20 points per game in a season. 6 minutes on the clock, Kyle. Here we go. I'll give you one right out of the gate here. A Laker who was a Hornet. Can I go Glenn Rice for this one?
Okay.
You good on that one?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, Glenn Rice Sr., 9%. Okay. Kobe Bryant might have counted, but I think you have to.
I was going to say Kobe, but I was like,
I think you have to play a game in a uniform to make it work. That Hornets goes back to the late 80s, by the way. We get all of it.
The Lakers Bucks one, I used this guy in an old video game, and that's how I remembered he was on the Lakers, but I know he's on the Bucks. Also, like an obscure point guard who's like in my top 50 players, just like watching him play. Ramon Sessions.
Yeah, dude. Former Timberwolf.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Ooh, a 0.8%
Okay,
on the rarity score.
Dude, I can't. I'm going to start cooking this in the wrong way. I hate this. Everyone's like, you were good at it. It's like, no, we just guessed.
You are really good. Let's knock out the 20-point per game ones here. We should be able to knock those out. Right?
So tough.
Well, I mean, like Alonzo Mourning, Larry Johnson, if you want to go back, right? Are there any? Like, I mean, what about Ball? LaMelo?
Yeah, I mean, LaMelo, I like Larry Johnson. That was kind of a fun.
He averaged 20, right?
He had
at some point. I feel like we're gonna get burned that he was like 19 points a game, but let's.
Will you find out right now? I'm still.
Yep.
Okay.
So it'll pop it up if it's correct. It'll pop it up. It'll give you a red thing if you guess wrong. Yeah. So 20% of people correctly guessed Larry Johnson there.
So I'm okay. I think the Cavs Mavs square.
Mm-hmm.
This one I'm like almost positive it's going to be right. Jose Calderon.
Yeah.
He's also like I think a front agent or a front office person for them now.
0.9%.
Yeah. Look at that. All right.
You're the ace
point guard
man.
whisperer, baby.
Your confidence does not match your skills here. I feel like
the Hornets Cavs one is.
It's pretty obscure.
Mare.
Let's come back. Let's do that one last, unless you've got one.
Well, I mean, I think Isaiah Thomas from Washington, not the Hall of Famer, but the little guy. I think
he played games for both those teams.
I think he played games for both those teams, but I mean, I don't have any other.
Let's put that. I'm going to write that one down.
Okay.
We can come back to that one. Let's come back to that one. Give me a 20-point Maverick. I mean, Dirk is the obvious one. Are there any other what about like Michael Finley?
Yeah.
He averaged 20?
Yeah, Michael.
Steve Nash? He didn't get 20.
No, I don't think Steve Nash averaged 20. Try. Not Sean Marion.
Dude, how about Steve Nash for the Maverick Laker?
Yeah, that would be fun.
Let's do Steve Nash.
You know, this is disgusting. How many
Milwaukee 30%? Wow.
How many Milwaukee Bucks I know? I don't know. The 20-point Dallas Maverick score, Michael Finley might be a good guess. I've only played this now 3 times, but Dirk seems too easy.
Well, Dirk is we could get Dirk. Dirk's super obvious. So we can. So there's I don't know, and maybe it's confusing. You can get if there's 10 of them in history, any of the 10 will be correct.
Oh, so okay. So this is okay.
So we know that Dirk is correct. If we want to get tricky and do a rarity score that's lower, you know what I'm saying? Like Dirk is going to be like 40%. Michael Finley, if he averaged 20 points, is going to be a better rarity score for us.
I just know so much about the map. You know what else would have been a good Lakers Mavs one, but we'll do Nash, would have been because he's on like half the league, would be Wayne Ellington.
Hold on, let's come back to that one. Do you care if I guess Michael Finley?
No, do Michael Finley.
I'm sorry if this is wrong.
That's
if he
fine.
Peaked at 19 points a game. He did not.
Wow, good call.
8%.
So we can do Steve Nash. That's fine. Michael Finley came up. I know so much about the Bucks. Again, going back to Jose Calderon, I'm almost positive that at least one of those guys would be he had a headband. Drew Gooden.
Yeah,
played
Drew
for the
Gooden's
Cavs, played for the Bucks.
Yep. That's a really good. That'll be less than 10% for sure. You're good at this, man. 2%.
Whoa.
So you've hit the
Just a
ones you've
lot
hit
of
on, like
NBA Live.
you've hit on 3 of them that are under 2%. Just rock star. So you said a Cav Hornet. We have Isaiah Thomas maybe, and then we need a buck who averaged 20. I mean Giannis, obviously. What about like Glenn Robinson, the big dog?
I was gonna say, when you said Glenn Rice, it got me thinking. Glenn Robinson would be a way more obscure one. I'm trying to think of between Glenn Robinson. Yeah, just do Glenn Robinson.
Or Kareem?
I think Glenn Robinson's a good answer.
Okay.
My brain doesn't go back far enough for Kareem.
Glenn Robinson. He had to have averaged 20, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Yep, 5%. There we go. All right, we have less than 1 minute on our clock.
Let's not even do
time
the
limit.
pod anymore. Let's just do this daily.
If we just did this and didn't talk about, we'll just like rave about Anthony Edwards for 10 minutes, and then we'll just do this.
Yeah.
You guys cool with that?
Man, Cleveland Cavaliers. So, okay, now that I know that it doesn't have to be one specific person, just kind of learning on the fly here. Cavs Hornets. Give me the full shot clock here, but I mean, Isaiah Thomas was on there. Trying to think of a big.
Boy, the Hornets.
I don't think Shumpert ever played for the Hornets ever.
I'm trying to think of like 90s, some of those 90s Hornets teams, but there's not much crossover.
No, there's not.
Sean Kemp never made his way to the Bobcats at the end of his career.
I know.
Emeka Okafor ever make his way over to the Cavs?
To the Cavs. I'm just trying to think of guys that bounce around the league because those are 2 bounce around the league teams.
Anthony Bennett ever make his way to the Hornets?
Oh, no, Anthony Bennett never made his way to the gym. I'm gonna go Isaiah Thomas, but I feel like that might mess us up. I have no other guesses.
How are we spelling his name? There we go. This one, right?
No, the 2012 one. Yeah.
Let's try it. All right, one time for the win. It is correct. Let's go. Let's go.
It's 2 for 2, baby. I think
just out of curiosity, what was that score there? Oh, 28%. Okay.
I think he had. Okay, so Jose Calderon 0.9%. That is. Just
so you can see here now
resume.
on the YouTube channel, you can see like here are how many answers were available in each square. And then you can see the most popular answers in each square. So Isaiah Thomas was actually the most popular answer in that square.
Okay. Good.
Vlade Divac was the most popular Laker who was a Hornet. Kemba Walker, Kyrie Irving for Mav. Yep.
Okay.
Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki for the 20 points, Giannis for the 20-point buck. And then Kareem was a 48%.
Good call.
On that one. And then Matthew Dellavedova. Yes, that's right. Was the most popular.
Ramon Sessions was during a really tough time in Timberwolves lore. I think that's when they were wearing my least favorite jersey of all time. They're like that weird blue and green. Mike Miller was, I think, on that team. He had to have played for like 20 teams. So, okay. 2 for 2.
So the Cav Hornet box was by far the hardest one. Only 39% of people got that one correct.
Good for us.
There you go.
This game's awesome. I'm addicted now.
Oh, beautiful.
It's like
all right,
beautiful. For nerds.
Nice work. Hey, if you guys could give us a 5-star rating and a positive review of Flagrant Howls on Apple Podcasts, you can help us spread the word about this amazing Timberwolves lifestyle podcast that you guys are helping us build. And if you could click the like button and the subscribe button on the Score North YouTube channel, you can also help us build this thing. So, all right, Kyle, good stuff. I'll let you get back to your day job.
Thanks, brother. Have a good time at podcast networking, and we'll be back next week.
Sounds good, man. All right, Flagrant Howls, your favorite Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.